A lot to talk about today regarding the trade deadline. The Eagles look like they're sellers right now on a specific player that just got here this year. And we're going to have a lot to talk about regarding Nick's comments regarding the other day. And is it more than Nick from all this control that he had, the points left off the board, and a lot more? A.J. Brown's injury, the linebacker position that seems to be very, very good right now, and a lot more things. So let's get straight into it all.
A killer buried, but not dead.
Darren, we better turn around. Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Yo, what is going on, guys? I hope everyone's having a fantastic day today. So, I've had a day to just clear my head a little bit. You know, a win is a win at the end of the day, but there are, problems that seem to be crawling right back to the Eagles regarding the coaching aspect of decision-making during these games. But, we'll get into that in a minute. But the trade deadline is the most important thing. Do we sign somebody out of luxury? What do we need right now? Now, some new news has popped up about Bryce Huff, newly acquired this year for the Philadelphia Eagles, $17 million a year. The edge rushing position has been one of the worst. Seems like Jalix Hunt is not getting more reps of these games. I don't know why, but Bryce Huff's name has came up in trade talks. Okay, Tom Pelissero, NFL News, mentions Bryce Huff being a big trade candidate. How they get out of this contract? Is there a loophole moving money around? I figured the Eagles will take somewhat of a loss in this situation regarding this contract. But is this a name that really surprises me? Yes and no. Yes, because they just signed him. But let's just face it, guys. Bryce Huff has been an absolute failure this year. I mean, they gave him into a 4-point stance a couple weeks ago, and we're all excited, and we're trying to grab straws as much as possible, giving him little bits of, hey, look what Bryce Huff did. Hey, he got pressure. Hey, he got his hand on the quarterback. Hey, he finally got a sack. Not a half a sack. He's got, I don't know what for the season. Maybe 2 sacks. I don't know what he's got for the season so far. But it's not much, and it just seems like a really bad contract as of right now. What can you get for Bryce Huff? I honestly don't know. If there's a big price tag connected to him because of what he, with the money that he's getting every single year now for the next few seasons, the Eagles will probably have to take a low type pick. But that's another edge rusher that now is off the roster, and you got to replace it with something here. Whether you're going to give more reps to the guys that are already playing as of right now, like I said, Jalix Hunt, I don't know. Fangio promised us a couple of weeks ago that Jalix Hunt should be earning reps into the rotation, but 5 reps is not enough for Jalix Hunt. I mean, I would think that as for these defensive ends that are in coverage for the Eagles, I've seen Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat on Malik Neighbors. I saw Jamar Chase, Nolan Smith on Jamar Chase in the end zone. I don't know what the thought process of some of these guys going into coverage from the edge position, but it hasn't worked out. They don't have a nice perimeter guy off the edge. I think Jalix Hunt would be that guy. He showed that in the offseason program. We're hoping to God that, that this could work out. But will they add anybody else? I don't know. But I don't know who else you're really trying to get rid of off this team. I know everyone's saying Avonte Maddox because he just isn't good. But unfortunately, I think you have to keep Maddox because he's a depth piece at safety, I guess, and he is the depth piece behind Cooper DeJean at that nickel spot. Could you throw somebody else there? No one else on the outside corner spot can play inside. Isaiah Rodgers can't play on the inside. Eli Ricks can't play on the inside. Keely Ringo can't play on the inside. So there you go with that. But Bryce Huff, though, okay? So it looks like even before the game started, in pregame warmups, apparently he messed up his hand or something. He got injured or something like that. He only played in like 5-6 snaps for the Eagles in this game. And I said to myself, yeah, I didn't see Bryce Huff a lot in this game. So looks like they're getting out of this contract or trying to. Now, just because he's on the trade block, it doesn't mean they're going to get a deal done. Okay, they're going to give it a shot, try to move some money around. They're going to have to promise a team that they're going to take on some of the money. Bryce Huff some team is going to take him on. I don't know what value Bryce Huff has. He's got value in a heavy rotation. He doesn't have value with a lot of snaps under his belt. So he hasn't worked out here, just not meant for it. I mean, unfortunately, Hassan Reddick, even last Thursday night, Reddick actually looked pretty good. Didn't look like he didn't miss a beat. I think he had a sack last week. I could be wrong, to count towards the Eagles getting hopefully a second-round pick in 26. We'll see how the rest of the year goes for the Jets and Hassan Reddick. But this is just a failed signing. And honestly, like $17 million a year just didn't really fit the scheme. Just didn't really fit, because of getting, he's coming off of 110 sack season and getting double the snaps that he's getting. Did he have that motor? Seems to be on his ass all the time. I don't know how many more weeks you have to wait for Bryce Huff to turn to what the Eagles want him to be from the money he's getting paid right now. But that is the big issue. So they're going to try to trade him. You're not expecting a big pick out of him. You're expecting a late round pick for this for next year's draft or something like that, something cheap, because the team is going to have to take on some of its money. And I think the Eagles, like I said, are going to trade him. I think the Eagles are going to make a deal to try to take on some of that cap for Bryce Huff, and we'll see how that whole entire thing goes with Bryce Huff going forward. So on the trade block, he is as of right now. But what I have a lot of interest in is defensive end. And I'm just looking at guys around the league, even from the Jaguars we just faced, like Josh Hines-Allen, Travon Walker, guys like that. Jaguars have a really good front right now. Seems like Doug isn't fired yet, but soon they're really they're going to blow things up sooner or later. They already traded their left tackle. Seems like things are not going well. I looked at Josh Hines-Allen's contract. It didn't look great. There's some big cap hits there within the next few years. This year at $11.1 million, which will be a lot lower now, but 2025, $15.4 million, 26, $23 million. They would have to extend him even more. I think he's 27 years old. So, he's a great player. They got a couple really good edge rushers in Jacksonville. Travon Walker obviously would be another one we've been talking about. Fangio has mentioned he wants, if they're going to go after somebody, it's going to be for a late round pick swap trade for a guy that can produce for the Eagles for a few years. So don't act like they're going to go get a big name out for the trade deadline. Fangio has been in the league for 30 years, and he's going down a different route and telling Howie, do not go after a big name, because 9 out of 10 times it just doesn't work out. And it's probably not worth it. For me, I feel like they have to go after somewhat of a move. It doesn't have to be for a Myles Garrett or something like that of that caliber, but it's got to be somebody that's going to at least be capable and we'll get a little bit of attention on that edge, just a little bit, okay? If it's not for an edge rusher, my God, should they trade for a running back? We're talking on the shakedown after the win against the Jaguars, and it made a lot of sense, even watching the game. Now, Saquon has ran the ball 22 times against the Giants. I think he had 31 touches against the Jags. And because Kenneth Gainwell wasn't producing in this game against the Jaguars, you had to play Saquon Barkley a lot more in this game, which really sucks, because I feel as if you have 2 games next week in the same week. You have to go to Dallas on Sunday, and then you have a Thursday night game at home against the Washington Commanders, which is the biggest game. You can't run him another 25 to 30 times, okay, in these 2 games. His body will not last within his contract for the next couple years after this year. You really have to get him going in a different way. I mean, the number 2 running back, I'm sorry, Will Shipley really needs some opportunity here. It's just not enough. It's not enough for me to say anything good about it, to be honest with you. Kenneth Gainwell has his moments. I have no issue with Kenneth Gainwell. It's how the coaches view Kenneth Gainwell. Even last year when we had DeAndre Swift, they treated Kenneth Gainwell like he was a dual threat back, throwing passes to him and doing. He just doesn't have that skill set that I don't know what the Eagles are. That's a Nick Sirianni player that he really likes, and Kenneth Gainwell has worked out for us. But as a number 2, look at Detroit. Look at some of these other teams that have these 1-2 punches. You have Saquon Barkley, and then you have Kenneth Gainwell. It's a huge drop off. And Will Shipley, My God, he's got the dual threat capability. Why aren't they trying to slowly get him into this offense at least throughout these weeks? So then maybe you can garner a trade for Kenneth Gainwell. Maybe trade Kenneth Gainwell. Kenneth Gainwell's a free agent after this season. Miles Sanders at least has some shifting capability with him. You want to make sure he can catch the ball. You want to make sure he doesn't fumble the ball because those were the biggest problems with Miles Sanders when he was here. But chemistry-wise, they played together in Penn State. Miles Sanders was the backup to Saquon in Penn State for a few years before Miles Sanders got his start. He played in Philadelphia for a few years. The Eagles didn't want to pay him, obviously, and I don't think he'd have an issue. I think that this would be a really good move for the Eagles. I wasn't open to it earlier in the season, but now I'm kind of getting more open to it, whether it's Miles Sanders or Hubbard or somebody that's out there that could be somebody that's a little bit better as a number 2 than Kenneth Gainwell. You're not paying Kenneth Gainwell after this season, and Will Shipley has just been sitting doing nothing. Not his fault, but he made a nice tackle against the Jaguars on special teams. He's got the speed to go down there, but it's just not enough. Like I said, back in 2017, when you trade a 4th-round pick for Jay Ajayi on top of all the other running backs you had, you had 4 capable running backs with God, it was just amazing with LeGarrette Blount and Jay Ajayi, Corey Clement. I mean, you are stacked, different skill sets, but they brought something different that defenses had to get prepared for any type of running back every single week. Even Barner was Barner never really got the start, but if you needed him to run, he was there too, but he was a special teamer for us, a punt returner for us. So Kenyon Barner as well. So they had good backs in 17, but with different skill sets. I don't see too many different skill sets here. I see an all-around generational back in Saquon Barkley, and then a step down from that, I just see an average back. Nothing much. Not a bruiser, not nothing. There's no specific great running skill set with Kenneth Gainwell. And I don't hate him, but how the Eagles view him, they value him too much. And I just feel like changes have to be made here. So if you're not going to go after a defensive end and want to get Alex Hunt more reps and just want the guys to produce, is what it is. We'll deal with it. Okay. And go get a running back if that's what you want to do. It could happen, but we'll see. We have till the end of today to see what happens there. Now I want to go over Nick's comments from the other day. Now this was Nick's comments were interesting for me. Now, Nick says, looking back on all the decisions with going for it and 2-point conversions, he would not change any of those decisions. He said it was a lonely place when you don't convert a 4th down. He says he was doing everything he could to help his team win the game. And he says those decisions are made to him trusting his players. Okay, I understand from his perspective, he wants to be aggressive and he wants to make his players feel great and positive. And I get all of that. But, man, you're facing a bad team. I felt like Nick Sirianni got the analytics for the Jaguars, and he literally was like, oh, man, let me run most of what I want to run in this game because, you know what, screw it. I think we're going to, he saw that the Jags are against the pass, almost dead last against the pass, and he saw those analytics and said, oh, man, I could just gunsling. I could do whatever I want. I could go for it every time. Like, I don't know what made him so aggressive in this game. Like 22-0 at half. You already missed out on opportunities to put more. This should have been like 37-16. I mean, literally, like just 9 points of that, and what the Eagles could have done if they were to put more points up, they would have killed this team. They would have killed this team by a mile. So now him saying this the next day, okay, if he's saying this that he was felt like he was right to do this, still didn't think he should have, been too aggressive. And he just supports himself doing this, and he says this to the media. It's hard for me to say, but it seems like Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie are perfectly fine with what he's doing. Kind of what Seth Joyner said last night, and I completely agreed. Like, if did they talk to Nick after this game and said that was a really bad thing you did there, Nick? Like that, we could have lost this game easily. Take the points when you could take them. Nick, I don't know why you're treating that game like that, but Nick goes into a press conference Monday morning and he says, oh, I'm doing this because I think it's right. And I have confidence in my guys and I want them. I get all of that. If he's saying this the next day on Monday morning, then man, then Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie must really fucking support this. And that's really scary because if Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie are on board with this, and say it's not even Nick's fault, say it's they want Nick to follow the analytical papers that is given to him on each team he's facing every week, and this is what he's going to do. This team isn't gonna do anything this year. You're not winning a playoff game like this. And to be honest with you, even scoring in that first quarter, it was off. It was, I give them credit. It was off of a special team turnover. But who knows that they would have scored on their own if they didn't get that special team turnover? I don't know if they would have. I guess we would have. We don't really know, so I can't say what if. And that whole entire thing. But it doesn't make me feel like, the Eagles are going back in the right direction. 10 steps forward, now another 5 steps back yet again, because now you still don't trust this guy. I do not trust this guy to keep his hands off. He literally couldn't help himself from the first quarter to the last quarter of the game. Okay, he literally would not stop. And I was like, this guy really needs to this guy needs to relax and just take the points, seriously. And then Jake Elliott is sitting there the entire game, and because he's so cold and hasn't done anything, you want this guy to kick a 57-yard field goal. And you put all the pressure on a 57-yard field goal, and guess what? The Eagles don't get it. And I can't even blame Jake Elliott for that instance because he was cold the whole game, and then you want him to make this big kick. I don't think that's fair at all, because you're going. It affected the game because when you're missing these 2-point conversions and you're not kicking field goals and you're overusing the brotherly shove, which I cannot stand anymore. That play is pissing me off because we are barely getting a push up front anymore with that play. We've almost failed at it the last few times pretty damn well. Okay, I think one was taken away from us. One of them should have been a touchdown that they never gave us, which I thought was a bunch of BS. I thought Hurts hit the line. But I think that's too overused. But now your defense has to start defending a lot more now, and your defense starts giving up big yards because you're playing heavy zone. And why are you playing passive if your offense is literally leaving points off the board? Makes no sense to me. Have no idea why. So Nick coming in Monday morning and feeling good about this is starting to tell me that Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie are perfectly fine by the way that game went the way it did. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. But I think we can all agree that this head coach is way over his head when it comes to putting his hands on things he shouldn't, especially the play calling for this team. 3rd, 4th down decisions, the 4th and inches. Yeah, I mean, everything. We talked about it the other day 3 times. Trust me. We've talked about it. We know what went wrong in that game. Okay, when everything was going well, we felt comfortable, and because of those missed points, the Jaguars score on the Eagles playing very passive on defense. And then the Eagles get back on the field. They run a ball at Saquon Barkley, and the referees make one of the worst calls of the year, which they've already made a lot of bad calls this season for a lot of football teams this year. And that's Saquon Barkley fumble, saying that he's not touched. He wasn't down by contact. That was a pickup fumble by Travon Walker and ran it right into the end zone. And they were literally back in the game in literally a minute and a half. They were back in the game. So because of those missed points, and then later on in the game, 4th and inches, boom. Play action fake, Pat. Play action fake on 4th and inches. Really smart. Really smart. So I don't know what this coach is doing. You have too much of a good roster and a generational running back right now to really be doing this, man, because the same problem like last year is going to occur once again. The Eagles are winning games right now, okay? And I'm telling you right now, it's going to get really ugly. When you face the Baltimore Ravens, you can't make decisions like this. When you face good teams, you can't make decisions like this. Because the Jags were a bad team, you gave them life in that game because of Nick's faults between not taking field goals, not taking points, the 3 failed 2-point conversions, and the Jaguars scoring on our passive defense, why we're not pressing a little bit more, why we're not being more aggressive defensively, why we want to keep everything underneath and tackle what's in front of us and, let them waste as much time as possible. As long as you tackle them in bounds, whether it's 20 yards in front of you, who cares? You gave them life from them scoring that first touchdown in the second half, and everything just started to go downhill tremendously. So that's where I'm at with this situation. I can't believe we're even talking about this. The last couple of weeks, I thought Nick was really hands off. Kellen Moore took a lot more. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody is right because everybody is right. You don't have to be a X's and O's type guy to figure out that what he's doing is not wrong, because it is. It's very wrong. And the analytical thing, I can't stand it. There's analytics. You follow that to a certain standard, but you have to have common sense. The down and distance specific plays that are common sense have to be made in game by an actual human brain that is capable of thinking. And that man doesn't think. And then he gets aggravated when things don't go his way in game, fighting with the refs and this and that. He puts us in these really hard situations. Make things simple for the quarterback. Make things simple for the run game. Why even do this? Why put it hard? Make it harder for ourselves. He's not going to learn, guys. He's just not going to learn. And this was the most aggressive I've seen Nick in a game. The most aggressive I've ever seen him call a football game in my life. We've seen some aggressive games from him from last year, but this, I would say, was the most aggressive because it was against one of the worst teams in the league, and they almost came back and beat us. That's what I got to say on that front with Nick Sirianni. Now, A.J. Brown, his injury is interesting. He's going to be fine. Thank God. Eagles just dodged a bullet with this. He had some knee swelling. I know A.J. tried to get back into the game at one point at half and then went back in, so he couldn't come back. He's a day-to-day case, so do not play him for the Cowboys game. I know that the Cowboys don't have Dak. I know CD's going to be playing, and he's not going to be 100%. Micah Parsons is coming back. I mean, realistically, guys, do not play. I care about that Washington game more than that Cowboys game. I'm hoping that AJ doesn't have to miss an entire week. He rests up this week, rests up for, most of next week, and hopefully could play in that Washington game on Thursday night. That's what I'm really looking for with AJ Brown. But get other guys involved, man. Jahan Dotson had a great catch. I don't know, man. I don't know why you trade for players and don't want to get them involved. I don't get it. We know Jahan Dotson has the skill set. We know what he could do, but yet you don't do nothing with him. It's another coaching thing that pisses me off, that without A.J. Brown, the offense looks very stale at times. And then, you remember you have Devontae Smith, and look what he's done the last couple weeks. One of the greatest catches I've seen Devontae Smith make against, was the other day, a couple days ago. And that was absolutely amazing. You still have a number one receiver on this team, even without A.J. Brown. That's how special this group is. That's why Nick really can't fuck this up the way he's fucking it up right now. And it really annoys me that it's going to be another year. And hopefully I'm not correct. Hopefully this is not another wasted year with the amount of talent we have. But the number one thing right now is to get A.J. Brown healthy. He's perfectly fine. Just a day-to-day case, some swelling of the knee. Strained his knee a little bit, so it's nothing serious of all seriousness. Thank God. So, we'll see what happens there. You can afford to lose A.J. Brown for that Cowboys game, but you got to get more guys involved. I like that they got Johnny Wilson involved for a touchdown that was called back. That was great. But Jahan Dotson, it's time, guys. What are you waiting for? Jahan Dotson knows what he's doing, and he's a great blocker for us. I mean, Nick, stop, dude. Why are you making excuses for not you? Oh, you trade a third, a seven for him to be a great blocker? I mean, come on now. We all know that's a bunch of BS. So, A.J. Brown's going to be good. And lastly, boy, am I happy about this, and we're all happy. Zach Bond and Nakobe Dean. My God. Zach Bond had a pick, 10 tackles, tackle for loss. He had 2 deflections. Zach Bond needs to be re-signed. I mean, that's a Pro Bowl caliber game. He's been very consistent this year. Guy could do anything. This is Fangio's protege player. Okay, and with Zach Bond, it's been just one of those things where we just got a guy from the Saints that was mostly a role player, from an edge rusher to an outside linebacker, and he turned him into his Van Ginkel, like Van Ginkel was to Fangio in Miami. Pretty much the same exact thing, almost. Zach Bond is on a 1-year deal right now. Do not turn this into another TJ Edwards situation. That man needs to be re-signed. You want to keep Bond. Bond and Dean have a special bond right now, which is fantastic. And there was 1 week like Zach Bond was leading in tackles like a few weeks into the season. It's kind of crazy. So Zach Bond is a perfect fit for this type of defense. And even for an aggressive defense, I think he would work out really well. He's just athletically gifted, has a nose for the football. I mean, just fantastic, man. Nakobe Dean. Now you're starting to figure out, as much as we don't get the Devin White situation, we really start to figure out, maybe the Eagles, and I said this to myself, I said, you know what? The Eagles finally got Nakobe Dean healthy for a year, right? And they said to themselves, we got to play him. We can't sit him. He's got to play, okay? And Nakobe Dean has looked like what he's supposed to be looking like. His coverage, I think from a standpoint of coverage, it was the best game he had coverage-wise. Probably his best game of the season, I got to say. Had that pick right at the end, which was fantastic. He actually caused the pick on Etienne, the running back, tackled him as soon as he got the ball in his hands. It popped up, landed in Zach Bond's hands for the interception. Nakobe Dean, in the blitzing packages and going after the quarterback, and he has been great. He has been fantastic with Trotter Jr. sitting in the wings right now, waiting for his opportunity. But man, you got a couple really good linebackers graded higher. Both of these linebackers were graded higher than last week. Just fantastic. I mean, when you see linebackers make plays, it never happens in Philadelphia. And let me tell you, man, Zach Bond might have found a home, and they better jump on an extension as fast as possible with him and lock him up, because he needs to be here. He needs to be here. Nakobe Dean, like I said, is going to be, there's been a lot of rumors, a lot of talk about Nakobe Dean, apparently because I think he heard the rumblings of the fans saying he can't cover, he can't do this, he can't do that during the offseason program, during the open practice where he got burned by Kenneth Gainwell twice. He got embarrassed pretty much in front of the fans, and I think everybody noticed it. And now Nakobe Dean apparently has, taken more time. He's been overnight at the facility looking at tape. He's been on the field a lot longer during these practices, working on his craft, and it seems like, it's worked out. It's really, really worked out. So that's great. He's been working really hard, and I give my props. I give my props to him, man. I give my props because I really wasn't, Nakobe Dean was, hot and cold at times, but he has really turned out to be something special. I think he's finally catching his stride, and doing his thing, Lock up Zach Bond. You got Nakobe Dean here for a few more years. Have them in the build, have them with each other for the next few years. It's the greatest thing we could have. What more we can ask for with the linebacker core. So that's where we're at with that. And other than that, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think about the trade deadline in general, what you would want for Bryce Huff. Would you trade him? Does it make sense? How do you think that's going to work? And are you looking at defensive end? Are you looking at running back? Do you want to bring Miles Sanders back? Do you think Gainwell is a proper number 2 for this team going forward? And I do apologize for another long video today because there is a lot to talk about. I want to get a lot of the trade deadline stuff into one video because today is the last day for the trade deadline. 4 p.m. Eastern is the deadline, so that's where we're at. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you definitely subscribe to the channel for Eagles news every single day, and make sure you like the video because it helps out the channel out tremendously. I want to thank everybody for joining up today and listening to what I had to say today on the Eagles. You guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Shakes it up, follow slide. Peace out, guys. Peace.